Welcome back to the podcast. It is 2024. So for the first time, we're doing a podcast in a slightly different setup. Although I just sprung it on you. Sorry about that.
New year, new us.
Yeah, new year, new setup, new everything. I was at the Arsenal game yesterday. By the way, it's a podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, which is obviously where you're watching it or listening to it. I don't know if there's anywhere else you'd want to do that, but welcome back.
You want the visuals, really?
Yeah.
Come on, it's the best bit.
I also launched a Patreon yesterday, just in kind of support. Someone put it in the comments below. It was like in support of just making content sometimes. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to just give you something and therefore you expect you have to make content. I just want to support the content. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I think so far we have like 3 or 4 people who've signed up.
That's a nice suggestion.
That still feels nice though. Even that 3 or 4 people went out of their way to go, yeah, I'm going to sign up for this almost straight away. I was like, that's amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah, really cool.
Let's give them a pod that delivers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, which is why I invited you over. Jamie and I have got lots of things coming up this year, and that is also what that would help us to maintain. So if you do want to head over to the Patreon and take a look, I wonder if I can make you someone on the Patreon. I don't know. Anyway, welcome back. I was at the Arsenal game yesterday.
How was it?
Tetchy. I did like a 25-minute video last night, which is almost like a personal podcast, but it was tetchy. It felt quite stressed. Everyone felt quite stressed and quite on edge the whole time.
In the ground?
Yeah. And that kind of played into Liverpool's hands because, well, they're just there to ruin the party, right? Like Arsenal, the expectation at the start of the season was it would be Arsenal and City challenging for a title, and Liverpool would be top 4, Manchester United would be top 4, whoever else would be top 4, maybe even Chelsea, maybe even... I don't think most people thought Spurs would be where they are, but you know,
I think I had Chelsea third, about as well as that's aged.
Yeah, and I just wanted to assess maybe some of the immediate needs, like what are Arsenal missing, which is a very easy thing to ask, but also like, are Arsenal currently as progressive as they need to be, and have they hit somewhat of a wall in the marathon they're in, which is what's holding them back at the moment?
Also, if we start with Arsenal,
yeah,
okay, the obvious thing. And everyone's bored to death of hearing it, is they need probably someone to put the ball in the goal. You
were telling me before the podcast that Ivan Toney has scored a hat-trick in a Brentford B game.
Brentford B game.
He's been through a lot in this recent period. And, you know, obviously he hasn't gone down the whole route of, I was addicted to gambling. He's and to anyone who has, obviously that's very difficult. But he's kind of gone down the route of, no, I just need to take some personal responsibility here. And I did do something that was wrong at that time. And Brentford seemed to have, as you put it, protected their investment, but also offered support and gotten through this period relatively smoothly.
Do you think he might be the answer for Arsenal?
I've seen some analysis that says yes, because, you know, people want it to be like they want Ivan Toney to take the next step. And I've seen some analysis that says no, where it's like, we actually want someone else. We actually want a different profile of striker. Where Arteta is currently at is not Ivan Toney shaped.
It's really interesting because obviously with Gabriel Jesus, they have someone who does maybe most of his good work linking the game up, more so than finishing. Ivan Toney can hold the ball up and gives you another option going back to front.
He's also aggressive. He's also a great finisher. He's also someone who centre-backs have to worry about. And I didn't really feel that Liverpool ever had, like obviously there was a ball over the top for Nelson. Cool, that's a worry to an extent. But it wasn't there the whole game. And like most of the time, Arsenal just spread the ball wide. And Liverpool were very comfortable in dealing with that.
My sense of Toney and Arsenal is he'd be an awesome signing for 35 million or 40 million.
But 100?
But 100. For 100, it feels like you need to wait until there's someone properly world class at the right age with the right profile. The only caveat to that is it's Christmas and they may well win the league if they sign a centre forward who's right.
Because what most people are missing out of their analysis right now is that actually they're not all that far off the top of the league. I think they're 5 points off the top of the league, obviously level on games, and 5 points is quite a big margin to make up. But they're still very much within the running. And they're still a force if you put someone else in there, I think.
And 5 points this year isn't the same as 5 points in the last few years. It's
in what
less. Teams are dropping points all over the place this year.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, which is the other reason why when everyone goes up, who's going to win the league now? It's like, well, there's still half a season to go. And in this half a season, City haven't done what you thought they would do. They now have Kevin De Bruyne back. Arsenal have done some of what we thought they would do, but not everything of what we thought they would do. And Liverpool have massively, by most people's expectations, overachieved. So we've still got quite a few twists.
There's one more comment to make about Arsenal going forward, which actually isn't to do with the centre forward, which is if you look at how Liverpool used to link up the front three, Salah, Mane, Firmino, or you look at how some of the great front threes, you know, even with City, how they link up, even without Haaland, De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo. Arsenal's front three aren't linking up very much. I saw a stat that showed that it's kind of like Odegaard giving it to Saka, who will try and produce something. Odegaard giving it to Martinelli, who will try and produce something. Ditto Jesus. There's very little interchange between them. And that's why it's this weird thing where in midfield they look very good. They look decent at the back. But they don't look quite free-flowing yet.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. There were certain games in the season where you've watched Arsenal, it feels very free-flowing. What's interesting about that is, and I think that's true, it probably was free-flowing in that game. What's interesting about that is that wasn't a consistent thing for Arsenal. They were a lot more solid, which definitely helped them. But now that solidity is being questioned because they're conceding more goals, going forward, the structure that they had has either been worked out, and therefore now it's much easier to isolate players. I felt that yesterday where Joe Gomez was very easily isolating Saka, and even when he had help, Liverpool were working out ways to win the ball back and were even then outnumbering them. That really seemed to frustrate Arsenal, and it seemed to be a mixture of they were tired mixed with, I wish we had a better opportunity to make something here and a better idea of what we need to make. And that's very easy to break down, especially again if you're the counter-attacking team like Liverpool were yesterday, who are very happy to sit back and go on then, come forward because we'll win the ball back.
And in terms of needing to be maybe less predictable and more multidimensional, that is the one thing Ivan Toney really does give you if you're Arsenal. You know, Kai Havertz has scored a couple of headers at the back post. God, Ivan Toney would really like to be on the receiving end of crosses. And you know, the interesting thing is, Jamie Vardy turned down a move to Arsenal however many years ago. And it was partly on the basis he thought he wouldn't get very much space. Ivan Toney is very happy for you to drop deep and not give him any space because he wants it kind of in the air. He wants it on the penalty spot. So as much as I'm saying it's too much money for a 28-year-old who I don't think is world class, I think it would be super interesting to watch and would give Arsenal a lot of variation.
Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Osimhen. I think he's out of their price range. I think Dusan Vlahovic would be an interesting buy just because he's big, his distribution is good. He's not necessarily got the goals return in the same way as maybe proven someone like Ivan Toney does. But I feel like if you put him in a team where people provide, they probably can up that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Pep described De Bruyne, which I wouldn't have said this, or wouldn't have known to have said this, but De Bruyne and Haaland as players who don't help you dominate the game, but help you win the game. And you need players who help you dominate, and you need players who help you win. And I wonder whether Arsenal would accept having a centre-forward that didn't help them dominate the ball, didn't help them dominate possession, but was really the final piece.
That's kind of where obviously you could probably fit most players into those silos. You could probably go, this player helps you win the game, this player helps you dominate the game. And I think what's interesting about Arteta is obviously he was talking about A1, A2, A3 rather than plan A, plan B, plan C at the start of the season. Doesn't feel very much like he's managed to get 100% of plan A ever. And so he's not been able to adjust plan A. He's just had to adjust possibly a B plan quite consistently. And they've never really hit into top form. So it became maybe a bit more difficult for Arsenal fans to imagine what it was going to be like when Arsenal were in their best form, or what to support and what not to support. It felt, when I was in the ground yesterday, very much like it was like something good happens, we congratulate that. But then when something bad happens, we don't really have much perspective over how to deal with that or what our team is capable of defending or not. It felt quite weird. Like for me, obviously last year, them having a fast forward from last season and them doing really, really well very, very quickly, possibly surprising Arteta, is maybe slightly working against them at this point, at least narratively and possibly tactically, because it all fitted together so well. Possibly they also then went, well, it's working, don't break what's working, so can they work on things to move the team forward when it's working quite nicely? And to an extent, I think it conditioned the fans to expect something which now might have taken another push to get to fan-wise and support-wise and symbiosis-wise that maybe...
But expectations have now risen, so now they're more receivers of the good thing than drivers of the good thing.
It definitely felt that way. And I'm not saying, therefore, they're bad fans. I feel like, everyone's subject to like the forces of what is going on around them. I just think it felt weird. It feels unknowable and kind of weird when you watch it. Like, I was looking at it and going, we've solved this really quite quickly in the game. Like, early on, Arsenal very intense, very invested, but very quick. It was like, oh, we isolate you, we isolate Odegaard. There's a man there, there's a man there. What are you going to do?
The caveat being, Arsenal could have put the game to bed.
In the first
10-15. 10-15, yeah.
But arguably, a counter-attacking team sort of want that. And I think Liverpool play to the odds of you're going to get these opportunities at some point in the game. We've got a big goalkeeper. We have two big centre-backs. We have Trent running back on the line. Mm-mm. They seem to almost know, that didn't seem to surprise Liverpool that they had those people in the box and that they would be in that shape at that point. Like, it seemed to be like, yep, here we are. And okay, we're through that period. Now break. That's weird almost having that.
Yeah, it's also worth saying that maybe the Liverpool side that played didn't have the two best players at the club.
Didn't have four of the best, most formed players.
And then, so you got Salah, obviously, Van Dijk, obviously, but also no Szoboszlai's a miss. Endo was player of the month.
Yeah. McAllister's making a return. I sort of said this in my Liverpool video yesterday. Like, it's hard, obviously, to evaluate Arsenal on a loss against someone who's a title rival in the Cup. They were identifying a lot yesterday. That game is the game where Arsenal turn it round and they kick on for the rest of the season. Definitely didn't seem that way, but it could be so different if they'd had a striker.
Do you think there's like a dearth of quality strikers in world football compared to previous years? Because you look around and you think Harry Kane, obviously, Erling Haaland, obviously, and then if you're talking about properly world class, you kind of pause and go,
Lewandowski? Is he still world?
Yeah, Lewandowski.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And available strikers is another thing.
But even without available, like
sure.
Take the pick of the unavailable strikers.
By the way, there's probably some people in Italy saying like, there's this guy, and this guy.
And
I get that. And in the Bundesliga, obviously, they've, Xabi Alonso has been very impressive with his team, and obviously there's the consistency of Munich. So they've definitely got the ability to score.
I accept all of that. It's just, it feels like if you're looking for you're in the market, you've 100 million to spend on the centre forward. Who do you want to spend it on?
I feel like 100 million doesn't get you Victor Osimhen, and that's part of the problem. But also, I mean, let's be honest here. Like, I don't know if that, like, Arsenal have got so many good players in so many positions now. Like, there is an embarrassment of talent at Mikel Arteta's disposal. I don't know if they need like the golden bullet. Are we just going, cool, all we're looking for here is a golden bullet striker who is this guy, or this guy. And actually, what they just need is someone who can put it away.
The problem is, Gabriel Jesus is really good.
Yeah.
So you need an upgrade on Gabriel Jesus. Mm-hmm. So you start quite quickly looking at properly quality strikers.
But that speaks to the progress that we've seen in the side that I was talking about even just a minute ago about... the team is so good. Improving the team feels, on analysis, difficult. Whereas actually, the marginal gains that everyone's been talking about with Dave Brailsford at Manchester United are still there for Arsenal to get. Like, it's just that they've had so many marginal gains. There's been such velocity recently for the side that when you then try and change this quite significant aspect, it feels like so big, it almost feels a bit like, that essay you don't want to write, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's interesting because what they really want is a player of like Isak's quality at Isak's price point.
Yeah.
But you turn around.
Both are good.
Yeah, and you turn around and you go,
go on then.
Who is that?
Well, it could have been Isak at one point.
It could have been Isak. Oh God, I think Isak was probably, it's very easy to say in retrospect, probably the striker available at that time.
Also, the way they were playing before maybe negated the need for that kind of striker. So the Saka and Martinelli combos, Trossard coming in, I think Trossard coming in pushed their season on. That seemed like a very inspired piece of signing at the time.
And Jesus was awesome.
Jesus was very good. And those combos, that negated the need for just this one killer, this golden bullet guy.
But now they've become more solid and less progressive going forward.
And the meta of football has slightly changed. I think he's even in a little while, other managers have caught up. Other managers have kind of got the memo, and other people have progressed their football, and it cancels out what Arsenal do well, or some of what Arsenal do very well.
A name I haven't heard linked to Arsenal, but is worth raising, is João Pedro.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I actually quite like that. Although whether they cash in January, I don't know. I think they probably wait for the summer when they can get like a decent rate for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just, De Zerbi said, listen, I love working with João, but it's difficult to see it happening next year. So
I love how he just cuts that off. It's like, cool, difficult to see that happening next year. Okay. Are you moving on or is he moving on?
Yeah.
Just out of interest.
Yeah, I think whenever De Zerbi says something like that, which he does quite often,
He's talking
it's like frustration of like, do we have to sell all our good players every year?
To which the answer is currently.
Currently, yes.
I feel like they've maybe, and this is what I'm talking about, is like, what if you put Raul Jimenez in that side?
I was just thinking about Raul Jimenez. Like, someone who's not massively mobile, has an eye for goal. I think Jimenez is probably the wrong example just because he's like only now in the last couple of months
Come good.
again coming good.
But is that also because he's had a change of scenery? He's recovered from where he was at. He's, all the things have clicked into place. Does that not happen at a bigger club even quicker?
Yeah, maybe is the answer.
There was also a conversation yesterday over Cody Gakpo. And if Arsenal had signed him, whether that solves a bit of an issue for them. Like,
but is he the... He strikes me more...
He's not golden bullet, no.
No, he
that's
strikes
my point.
me more as the Gabriel Jesus-y, I link things up, I'm really good at football type.
Yeah.
Versus the, hey, that's a goal, I know what to do with that.
Is part of the issue not that they just don't have Gabriel Jesus in the side at the moment, or Jesus or Gabriel Jesus?
No, I don't think so. I think
if he plays yesterday, Liverpool feel a lot more nervous. Kwanzaa and Konate have a lot more on their plate if he plays yesterday.
That's true, but at the same time, it's true, I think, that there have been games where he's been not particularly lethal. I think an interesting signing for Arsenal would be somebody in the like, and this is so, I'm not actually suggesting this, I'm just remembering Man United signing a Garlo. I'm wondering if there's a Raul Jimenez or that kind of a centre forward.
I feel like Jimenez is above the Igalo level.
Yeah.
I mean, Igalo, just on record, isn't Raul Jimenez, but I get your point. Like, but that's almost like a free transfer. Like Igalo was like 9 million or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was low.
That would be like the punt on
this guy from this place
who happens to be out of contract, and that would be like Bashiwai who puts the ball in the goal quite regularly. Like that kind of thing. That would be like a Bashiwai or a who's the other Belgian striker?
What, like Lukaku?
No, well, but Lukaku's kind of an interesting. I mean, he's done in the Premier League. Is the idea?
Is he? Yeah, he is. But he's done. I think he's done with the Premier League as much as the Premier League has done with him. I think he's sort of like, don't want that anymore. Boring. Move on.
What about like weirdly clutch like Ferran Torres or something?
Yeah, but that's part of the problem with Ferran Torres. He's not weirdly clutch.
Oh, really?
Well, like I feel like that's part of the issue. Is like a lot of the time Barcelona are sort of going, "Go on then," and he sort of goes, "Yeah, I'll score it next time."
Isn't it difficult though to like actually find a centre forward that kind of feels like a fit? I understand Arteta's issue.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not unsympathetic to what their plight is. I remember at Liverpool, like being like, we need X. Manchester United at the moment need people on their squad who can add depth. Man City at one point needed people on their squad in very specific positions, but that could add depth and could come in and continue to at least progress the side while other people are out. Same with Chelsea are struggling. Chelsea might have signed a couple of the people actually that Arsenal might have benefited with. I'm not saying I think Nkunku wasn't that guy. I think Arsenal weren't looking at the profile of someone like Jackson. Sterling, I think, would frustrate Arsenal fans.
Massively.
He's not on mesh with their supportership.
He's also not the most prolific for someone who scored lots and lots of goals.
Sure.
I know
Mudryk.
I mentioned him on every podcast. But you know who? Okay, maybe not now, but definitely maybe last year could have done a job for Arsenal.
Minamino. No.
Olivier Giroud.
So you're thinking very much in that set of players. You're thinking like big, strong, scores goals.
Yes. And links things up.
Olivier Giroud would be very fun to watch for Arsenal as well.
Fun. Also, can you imagine him and Saka? They would love each other.
The redemption of Olivier Giroud at Arsenal. Saka would love him, and he would love Saka. They both have the red tips.
Speaking of centre
Yellow
forwards, what do you make of Nunez moving onto the left-hand side and looking
Exploited
deadly dangerous?
Exploited Arsenal really well, I thought. Nunez someone Arsenal could have signed? Is he like someone? Do you know?
I don't think he'd have been the answer given their current set of problems, but they will have looked. I mean, they will have watched him.
I think they foresaw some of these issues, but I just think there were other positions they prioritised ahead of these. Like Rice is just too good not to prioritise. Although, obviously, there are games where it doesn't go his way and, that happens. But I still feel like maybe they're looking at the midfield and going, what's the structure there? It feels like they either need another midfielder that then commits Kai Havertz to another more forward position, or they need another striker who then pushes Kai Havertz slightly more back into midfield, or the striker comes back and links with him a little bit and there's like a combination play thing. Yeah,
I saw someone suggest, I think it was on Tifo IRL, just swapping Jesus and Havertz and going, bang, there's your 8. His name's Gabriel Jesus. Right. There's your 9. His name's Kai Havertz.
I think I saw this in James's channel the other day. He was talking about just a super deep false 9. So almost like another midfielder, basically. Kind of, but not in the shape of a Bobby Firmino. Bobby Firmino is technically available right now.
Yeah, it would be a strange one to totally rule out. Although if you've got Jesus, is he not the younger...
He looked good in an Arsenal shirt. No. Very different. Two very different profiles of player. And also, I think Bobby Firmino is much more of like a hookup player. I feel like Bobby Firmino probably scores one of those yesterday.
Yes.
Like in a congested corridor type box. He was the kind of guy that goes, oh, that little square is where the ball got to go. Bang. And also looks away at the same time as doing it.
Oh, God.
Do you get what I mean, though? Like, there is something there where I look at it and think they just need you almost just need someone else. Reece Nelson is good, but he's not the answer. He might be at some point. Eddie Nketiah is good, but if I was to say, hey, tomorrow you can trade Eddie Nketiah for Elise at
you would do
Palace. Not that it's like for like, but what I mean by that is they go, that's a really great player, try him out. Let's just go down this route for a second. Arsenal, if they can't buy someone, I'm not saying it's over, but it feels much more difficult if Arsenal can't buy someone in January because it seems like such an evident solution to everyone else. It's a lot for Arteta to solve then at that point.
They would be relying quite heavily on Martinelli and Saka.
Yeah.
They would be relying on Jesus to stay fit, but really just Saka and Martinelli, particularly Saka, have played so many games.
Trossard's not been all that prominent. I'm kind of surprised. Saka looked tired yesterday to me. When I looked at him, I thought, oh, you aren't... It's not that you're not capable. Like, do you have it in you to do this, like, to keep going, to keep isolating someone, to keep going past them? My answer was not in this game. If Joe Gomez, who's been very good recently, can isolate you in such a way, and you know that if you get past him, you could get onto Jarell Quansah, you've got to do better than that for me.
Look, I mean, my thinking really here is that, to answer your question, if they don't sign someone, I don't think they're out of it by any stretch, but I think it's much harder. It's much harder.
Especially with City getting people back and with everything else.
Spurs don't have the squad for it. Arsenal might be missing a striker. Villa are unlikely because they're not good enough away from home.
Question. I know I'll cut you off there. How much does a new left back change a lot for Arsenal? Like if they had another left back that wasn't Kivior yesterday, does Martinelli have a slightly easier job out on that wing of, can he then cut in a little bit more? Because he was quite wide a lot.
What about Kieran Tierney, who they presumably have on a recall?
I mean, I don't know where he is now. Like he's
Sociedad. It's quite a cool move.
Tanned Kieran Tierney coming back. Incredible.
Yeah. Sainsbury's bag and everything. But I think the answer is quite a lot. I think if Timber was playing and he was fit.
What if you were to put, I suppose Saka doesn't work like that. What if you were just to put one of those wingers in the middle? What if you would just say to Martinelli, we can't afford anyone else.
You are now a centre forward.
You're now our centre forward.
I mean, West Ham have done it
on the left.
West Ham have done it with Jared Bowen.
A lot.
I mean, he is now their centre forward.
Mm-hmm.
Saka doesn't work like that. Martinelli, I would love to work like that, but I don't think he does.
I feel like I've seen him play centrally a couple of times. I didn't unrate him. I feel like he's got something in him. He's got some finishing in him.
He's got some Henry opening up. I'm just roll it to the far post in him.
Yeah.
So why not? I just don't think he's got but most of his strengths lie in taking the ball out wide, beating a man, getting across, versus, hey, something's a little bit like neck height and awkward, but I'm going to put it in the goal.
And I understand that. I guess the team they were playing yesterday, and this then goes all the way back to Arteta, the team that were playing yesterday in Liverpool showed that front line, which possibly at some point in this next couple of weeks could trip up without Salah in it, but showed when they make one change, they shifted the whole front line around. So you then end up with Nunez shifting position, Jota coming on, and
Diaz going right.
That's confusing for the opposition. It's disorienting in terms of who we're now marking. It allows new space, new matchups, new all sorts of things that is difficult for them to adjust to. Why isn't there more like variation? Because this is what I'm saying. It goes back to Arteta. Why isn't there a moment where Arteta goes, put Martinelli central, just put him in the middle and put someone else on there? Trossard came on. I was like, here's what. Nope, didn't change all that much.
How front threes work is so fascinating. Like,
you need Bobby Firmino.
Yeah, so Bobby Firmino is like one of my all-time favorite Premier League players. Just gorgeous to watch and made the team gorgeous to watch.
Football managery.
Super football managery. I don't know the answer. My instinct though is that without someone, as you say, some kind of change, even if it's that kind of change, there will just be too many days like the West Ham game, like yesterday, like the Fulham game, where Arsenal create plenty and don't.
And that's the other thing. Like, there's not all that many reasons to worry because statistically, things are actually not as bad as people are making out, right?
If you take into account all the game Arsenal like won comfortably on XG, that's top of the league.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is XG and having a striker that finishes it that's the difference between XG and the striker that finishes it. And that's kind of the point is it doesn't even have to be the striker that finishes it. It just has to be someone who finishes it.
And it also shows you how good you have to be to win the league without a proper striker. Like City did it.
Yeah.
City had Gabriel Jesus, who didn't play all the games.
And that was a very strong squad. Yeah.
But you have to kind of like overcompensate.
Sure.
By being so good.
And at the moment, it doesn't feel like there's much compensation elsewhere. And actually, they're having to give a little bit in other areas, such as the Havertz area, such as the Odegaard area. And the midfield, whilst it feels balanced to an extent, they're not quite able, because there's no focal point for them to then feed into of a striker or whatever. It just doesn't seem as solid, if that makes sense. Odegaard does have an okay scoring record. But when the midfield isn't massively full of goals and Martinelli and Saka are now knackered, it's like a perfect storm of fruitlessness up front. Right. Okay.
If Saka and Martinelli were flying and there were goals coming from midfield, you would go,
what now? Yeah, great. Amazing.
Whatever.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
But it's just, it's the way the Premier League's going. Like West Ham in the Cup yesterday played Paqueta up front. Centre forwards are a rarer and rarer breed.
Facilitative.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's actually a word, but
I get it.
You really get it.
And even Liverpool, who have a bunch of potential striker options, Jota, Nunez, Gakpo, don't really have a.
I mean, Nunez is meant to be that, right? Nunez is clearly bought in and meant to be that, but it's whether that he's actually is that. Those are two different things.
But the fact is that it doesn't really seem to matter right now.
Do you know what else is? It might also be like having that kind of lightning rod of just, even if that striker comes in, that's what I'm saying, is just someone, even if that striker comes in and just acts like a striker, they score. Like having that, the distraction, the engagement with the centre-back, all these kind of things, I feel like it changes the way the opposition treat them. Whereas yesterday, I genuinely think, and I have no doubt that next time Liverpool play Arsenal will score because they'll have come up with a solution, or a player will have a good day, or a combination of all those things. I looked at it yesterday, I was like, you're not scoring.
No, Havertz, who by the way does actually have a decent goal scoring record in big games and can score some clutch goals and comes onto things late and is great at the back post, equally isn't a centre forward. Equally isn't someone who you look at one-on-one with a defender and think, oh, he's going to shift him and score.
Odegaard on average was further forward than Havertz yesterday. And it basically led to like a 4-2-4 or more like a 3 whatever, and then there was like a front four. But the two people in the centre were not finishers. I mean, they are finishers. They've scored good goals in their time, but they're not like, you don't look at them and go, that guy's finishing is his best thing.
No, and this is where the Pep Guardiola slightly clumsy distinction, that's quite a good distinction between dominating games and winning games. Mm-hmm. They're just missing them. I mean, Nunez is an interesting character on that basis because he helps you kind of do both but neither, but both but neither. He helps you dominate games because he's just like, he pins people back. Mm-hmm. He's the outball.
He's all the above, but he's also sometimes unquantifiably, it's Nunez. And then he's kind of one of those things where when he's not on the ball, you know he's a handful, but you also know that he's like a stealth bomber.
Yeah, whereas Havertz is a point of comparison. When he's not on the ball, you just don't need to worry about him.
Right.
Like you just don't need to, you're totally fine.
And that is interesting to see the comparison. I think you treat them differently out on the field, even though there's kind of a comparison there between the two of them.
Nunez, you just know, like you switch off for 1 second and he's in. He's killed you. Havertz, it kind of feels like is getting a haircut and being kind of complex and being really good at football in a way that's a little bit like nebulous.
Yeah, I get that.
And as a centre back, I go, oh, you can read Camus over there.
Right.
Nunez, though, he's going to run that way.
And that's going to be horrible. And I'm going to have to follow him. And yeah, I get that. I felt like Liverpool recovered a lot very well yesterday when the balls out wide happened. They basically went, Saka's got it. Martinelli's got it. We're good. Or let's just recover, get into a good position and get ready to break.
Well, here's the fundamental issue, right? Like you can't score goals from wide areas. Like you score goals from the middle.
It's much rarer, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like Liverpool called Arsenal's bluff and said, okay, Martinelli, you run at us because there's 2 of us and we got 4 players in centre-back positions. Go on, put it on Kai Havertz's head.
So who's your ace in the hole? That's where you need that. That's
where Ivan Toney, even though I'm not a fan of the move at the price or anything, would create such a problem.
What we're now talking about, though, and the language, the vernacular that's being used around Arsenal is such things, and it's actually words that are being used by Arteta himself as a mental hurdle he described yesterday. That I feel they've spoken about, you remember Ramsdale spoke about that in the pre-season where he said...
Before the title collapse kind of thing. Was the mental hurdle of
beating City.
Oh, yeah,
in the Charity Shield. I'm showing Jamie where people were when they... look how far forward Martinelli is and how progressed he is. Eddie Nketiah barely touched the ball. Same with Emile Smith-Rowe.
God, Martinelli was massively far forward.
There was very low involvement from 3 of their subs because really they didn't change it until quite late. And that made it very simple for Liverpool.
And if you look at Liverpool's average positions?
I mean, Liverpool's average positions, way more comfortable, clearly counter-attacking, but way more comfortable. And then if you show the subs, again, they basically just hunkered down. So
the interesting thing is, if you go play City when Haaland is on the pitch, hunkering down doesn't feel comfortable. Because at some point, Haaland's going to put it in the goal by virtue of the hunkering.
Yeah.
There's just going to be enough of that. Whereas when you don't have a centre forward, it's like, come on, get comfortable. We can have a chat at the edge of our box for 90 minutes.
I like where we're going with this. It doesn't solve Arsenal's problem, though it does inadvertently solve Arsenal's problem, which seems like such an Arsenal under Arteta thing. My final piece here is, say Arsenal... that obviously it leads to a lot of speculation. There's a lot of people stupidly on Twitter saying Arteta out. Obviously, that's not the take. It's not the move. How long, if the season continues to pan out like this, and I don't mean all losses, but I mean
patchy,
just behind the leader, does Arteta have? Especially if you go into a pressure Champions League game against Porto. Thank God there's a lot of time against Porto for them to recover. You go into that period and it's still not great. How many more seasons after this does he get to bite that cherry? There's one more? Is it two after this?
I don't think he's under pressure.
Not now, but I mean, if they don't win it this year, how many more years does Arteta get to go home?
Until it gets a lot worse. And the reason I say that is...
Until they dip, basically.
Yeah, because at the moment...
This is and again, I'm not making the point because I think Arsenal are dipping and they should get rid of Arteta, but I'm trying to map out in my own head, where does it go from here?
I'll tell you. In my view, it's Arteta's they're levels above like 2 or 3 levels, maybe 4 levels above where they were when he picked it up. They're very much in his shape and his thing. And the problems this year aren't really Arteta's fault. It's more you look at the big level recruitment.
And injuries.
And the
Although
injuries.
he was definitely in lockstep with those
levels. I understand that. So you might say...
They're doing him.
Of course, yeah. But Arsenal play great. They defend well generally. They move the ball really well. Sure. They create chances. And if they don't win the league, it's like snore, City have won the league.
Sure.
So in a weird kind of way, I think the existence of this treble-winning City side has actually given everyone a little bit more time.
Yeah, and to the opposite of that as well, this treble-winning City side have also made such, and obviously, Liverpool as well in that time, have made such high points totals, have made such crazy expectations on a league that now, if you have a dip of any sort, it is instant catastrophe crisis, and the yardstick that people are measured against becomes so much more. So fans become a lot more stressed, it becomes a lot more fraught.
Search the how many points Man United got in 99-2000, because they won the league that year.
Okay, yeah. Did they?
They did, but it's going to be 99-2000. It was after the treble winning season.
Points 99-2000 just 0-0. 91. It's pretty high, Winning 15 and drawing 4 of their 19 games at home, and finishing their title-winning season with 11 wins.
Okay, well, that was not the point I was trying to make.
Oh,
in my mind, because
terrible then.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. The point I was going to make was,
if I was you there, I would have gone exactly, and then just made a new point.
I know, but I could.
Aha,
gotcha.
They had high points.
Exactly.
This isn't that City didn't invent having high points.
But and that's my overall point.
Right.
No, I mean the point is, I think they won it maybe the year after with like 78 points.
Right, very low.
Yeah, and you used to be able to win a league by, I think, 85 points was about average.
85, 86, it felt like 80, 84 and above, 83. Like, all of those numbers I've named there,
but now,
they're in succession for a start.
99 failed.
97 failed, I think.
Oh.
And did 99 fail?
Or was it 98?
Yeah, 98 beat 97. And then 95 beat 96.
Well, City got 100. I think City got 100 and won.
City got 100, but I don't feel like it was like 99, 100.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, if you said at the start of the season you're going to get 90 points, will you win the Premier League? The answer is maybe.
At the start of the season, I think 90 points everyone would have gone, that wins the league.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Because you just knew it was going to be more competitive than it was before. And actually, if you look at the league table, if you look at...
Yeah, halfway through, what are we looking at? Expecting, obviously, City to get more points in the second half.
And how many more points do you think City get?
10.
What? Than where they're at now?
10 more than they got in the first half of the season.
Okay, so that would put Man City on...
90 points.
90 points.
Yeah, right. Right. See, that's kind of what I'm saying.
But also, if you double Liverpool's score right now...
You get
almost also,
90.
I mean, obviously, your matches played. You get...
You get 89, 88.
89, 88. But you think City will score 10 more points.
And
therefore, City win the league, as you say, by, 2 points?
I think City by 5, it would be my guess.
Because you think Liverpool's still got difficult places to go.
I think Liverpool will continue performing just as they have and do well. Liverpool have been to the hard places.
Only lost one game in the league.
Liverpool have been to, away from home, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal.
No, they've got
City?
the Arsenal game to come.
City?
So the Arsenal game is to come.
Right. But they've done City. They've done United.
They've also got City at Anfield. I feel like, the City game and the Arsenal game is not really about location.
Yes, I know what you mean.
It is about location, but it's really...
It's so intense on the pitch that it's almost like the location blurs out.
Yeah. Although the interesting aspect was Liverpool... What I found interesting... I sat in the stands and I looked at the Emirates pitch and I went... It wasn't me, actually. It was a friend of mine who went, that's a big pitch, isn't it? Compared to Anfield,
feels massive.
That's huge.
It feels massive.
Anfield feels tiny as a pitch compared to that.
The one that I used to not understand at all was going to Kings Meadow to watch Wimbledon. And it was like a semi-pro. I mean, Kingstonian played there. It felt... I'm probably half the size of Old Trafford. It wasn't. I Googled it. It was like a few meters shorter.
Yeah, there's only a minimum and a maximum size, but Liverpool go minimum size, I think, is obviously gegenpressing, and
Emirates go maximum size. But the
size.
interesting thing, I think, is if you imagine like a 4-4-2, just people standing in shape, if you make the pitch 5 meters wider, between two centre-backs, that's now a bigger distance to defend in
Massive.
a significant way.
I'm not sure, by the way, that you can add 5 meters to the pitch, but you can definitely add like enough that
It might be
makes
5
more,
yards.
more awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is less pleasant.
It's also, I think it's probably, and I can't quite articulate this, there's two halves, right? So a smaller pitch means that if you want to press up as the defensive side and the attacking side wants to press the ball, it gets smaller on both ends.
Is
You know what I mean?
Is it just the width, or can you also adjust the length
Both.
of the pitch? So technically, if a striker has been practicing at a training ground all week, running from the halfway line,
It's a different size, yeah.
yeah, and then he's got like an extra 2 strides in which he can think about where he is.
It's also worth saying, if you start, I don't know, you defense of the ball and the midfield start 40 yards up, that 40 yards means 2 different things. on
There's
different
also,
pitches.
if a pitch is longer, but there's narrowness, then and you play a high line, you're also giving your players. So say you have a slow centre back, but they're slow to accelerate, but at top speed they're pretty fast, or vice versa. You can adjust your pitch to suit that. So
although you know what's an interesting question you raise is, do the ratios have to be the same?
no.
No.
So Arsenal's ratios look very different to Liverpool's ratios.
So not just the size, but the ratios.
yeah,
So you're saying it's quite a lot wider.
it looks way wider.
I mean, I played football at 13. We went on a tour to Spain to play. And we played Valencia under 12s or something.
What was the score?
They took 13.
Absolutely, yeah.
13-1. I mean,
Absolutely.
they played together.
They took it, didn't they?
They played together since they were 5, these kids.
Right.
And they were all playing Valencia under 15s. And we were just, anyway, the pitch felt
Did you
wider. No, but like, you give me one more, give me a yellow card and we could have seen.
Well.
Anyway, the pitch was it felt wider than it was long.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's how Spanish football works.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though back then it actually would have worked like that.
No, it was prime. It was prime.
Prime tiki-taka.
It was prime. It was 2010.
Wow.
It was, yeah. And that 14-year-old was called Marcus Senna.
Yeah. I mean, you probably were playing against someone. You might have been playing like Ferran Torres, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've had this thought. It's annoying that we can't go back and see
Check.
the lineups. Yeah.
You might be able to.
Because, one of them has probably made professional football.
Probably can check.
We play, I told you we play 5-a-side now with in goal with this 18-year-old Spanish kid whose uncle was in goal when Messi scored the 1-0 goal against Bilbao. You know, the one where he gets the ball on the right and puts it in their post.
Inside, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about this earlier today. Can you analyse Kylian Mbappe's finishing when he does that near post finish thing?
Oh, it's so cool.
Does the goalkeeper look at that and go,
No, I don't think you've got time to react.
no,
Because I think you have to
you're
assume.
shifting? Yeah.
You have to assume he's going far post because he does 90% of the time.
Sometimes it trickles in though.
I know, but this is weird.
Annoying, isn't it?
The Mbappe one, it's properly cool. Near post finishes are cool. Like the Diaz one, it went
100%.
like that.
Very near post.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been great to join you guys. It's been great to be joined. It's been great to join up. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've enjoyed this, go hit subscribe. Hit subscribe on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. The new year brings a new channel for us, which I think we should set up this week.
Oh yeah.
And if people want to go and see the graphic, by the time that we upload the next podcast, I think we'll have a YouTube channel. Why are we making all these YouTube channels? I made a Laurence McKenna on LFC yesterday. Do you want a live subscriber count on that? It was on, I think, 4,000 yesterday. That's the wrong account. 6,172. I think I put on like 1,500 people.
With
That's not bad.
with one vid.
Yeah, but that's not a flex. I'm just saying.
That's pretty good going.
It feels nice. But if you're a Liverpool fan, you're over there. Go and take a look.
Yeah, it's worth saying there's going to be some serious Liverpool content.
Yeah,
here.
but also just some laughs.
188 comments, pretty good.
Not bad. I mean, I feel like though there's the impetus there. If you go to someone like Rory's video or something, then Rory gets loads of comments, like loads.
How good is this? All right, well, listen.
I love the paragraphs.
Go to subscribe.
Yeah, I love the paragraphs. If you've got any more paragraphs you want to put in the description below, please put them down there, and we will chat to you guys again real soon, right here and in other places. See you later, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Ooh, ciao, ciao. What's
ciao.
that, like a Sims thing?